Good morning. I'm Amy Johnson from the Midwest Manufacturers Association office, and I will be your moderator during today's webinar. This webinar is scheduled to last 1 hour. We do ask, if you haven't done so already, please place your virtual name tag on. You can do this by renaming your profile with your name and your company. We like to see who's with us today, and this is how we do it now. To do this, scroll over your profile video and select the 3 dots at the top right corner and click Rename. Q&A will be held at the end of the presentation today via the chat function. You can feel free to chat either everybody or to me privately. This webinar, as all of our webinars, will be recorded and will be available on each affiliate website under the Events tab and Webinar Recordings. With that, I will now pass the microphone over to our Executive Director, Sandy Cashmark.
Good morning. I'm Sandy Cashmark, extending a warm welcome from AMFA, CMMA, and Tri-State. We appreciate your taking the time to join us today. Our goal is to provide content that specifically helps manufacturers and to provide manufacturing solutions. Today, we welcome you to session 6 of our marketing series, featuring a discussion on leveraging research and data to guide your marketing strategy. And now I'd like to introduce our speakers, Liz Diedrich and Kyle Schweitz from Diedrich RPM. Always the innovator, Liz sees her current role as determining and validating the best ways to promote clients in their B2B and B2C markets. Liz started her first business at age 20 when she invented and manufactured a product that she then sold to Tupperware. From there, she taught college-level drafting and engineering and marketing classes in Germany for the US military at 3 different institutions. She returned to the States and took a role as Director of Sales and Marketing for a cruise line and resort in Florida, where she increased sales by 16 million in just 3 years. Liz started Diedrich RPM in 1994 and has been an acclaimed innovator in combining research and marketing ever since. Kyle started in Diedrich RPM's market research department in 2010 and quickly developed a passion for data collection. As Director of Research, he is constantly learning, adapting, and implementing new strategies. Kyle ensures that the quality of data of any Diedrich RPM research study is uncompromising. Kyle enjoys taking on clients' challenges and answering tough questions for them. And now we'll hear from Liz and Kyle.
Thanks for the introduction. I appreciate it. And thanks for the opportunity to be here today. This is fun. Everybody can hear me okay?
Sounds good.
Okay. I'll go ahead and share my screen. Hold on there. All right. We'll go ahead and get started. So today our goal is really to help you uncover what you need to do to help the company better compete that you're representing. And it's interesting, we did a study for the Manufacturers Alliance to look at where people were with regard to new media, new ways to market their businesses, and also, where there might be some knowledge gaps. And one thing that was really loud and clear to me is you are all wearing multiple hats. Almost every single participant in the study that we did is not only managing the marketing side of their companies, but often they're managing the sales, they're managing other parts of the business. And so I get, how can you stay on top of everything and really provide the direction and marketing efficacy if you're having to wear multiple hats? So our goal here today is to help you guys who are already time pressed stay informed, get ahead of the curve, and have some new strategies to come away with today as you develop your plans for 2021. What we'll go through today is some best practices that you guys can implement in leveraging and developing your messaging and core competencies around your brand, and how to implement that, and then how to conduct a pilot strategy that will help you take baby steps that provide a result that you can leverage from an ROI perspective. And we'll talk about how you can get there and how you can do that. And as I was thinking about today, I was thinking about the first time somebody gave me a binoculars. How many of you can remember the first time you looked through binoculars? I think that the challenge is that you're not sure where you're looking, particularly if somebody says, look at that right there, and you try to focus in on what to do. And the whole idea is today you're going to learn how to build that focus in your plan and create a story that differentiates your business from the competition, and how to apply what you learn in how you distinguish your story to your customers with this information. We'll help you with some structure, direction, where to put together your pilot campaigns and where to place them, how to structure a budget, and how to measure the results and leverage those results. You know, one of the things that we heard in the study that we did for the Manufacturers Alliance is people didn't know how to determine what that budget was. You pull a number out of the air. No, there's some strategy to that, and we're going to share that with you today. So again, going back to the focus piece, I remember my dad was trying to have me see a deer through these binoculars, and I remember grabbing the binoculars. And, you know, I knew the deer had to be out there, but I know you could probably all relate. It's one thing to be given the binoculars. It's another thing to actually apply how to use the focus. So we're going to take you through that. So I'm going to turn this part over to Kyle. We're talking about how to build your brand and how to use some research to substantiate the direction that you will take your company using what you do from a research perspective. So Kyle, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Liz. Good morning, everybody. So I'm going to give just kind of a high-level overview on research when considering incorporating this into your marketing strategy or plan.
Liz, I think Kyle might have hit the wrong button, but he'll be right back, I'm sure.
Yeah, Kyle, we can't hear you.
He left the meeting. I think sometimes
Right.
he hit the wrong button.
I'll kind of cover for him as he rejoins. So really, when we're doing research, we start with identifying who we want to target as a part of our research process. And we typically will conduct a survey, and we'll do this for our clients. We work with a lot of different manufacturers, and we won't disclose who we're calling on behalf of. We conduct what is called a blind study. And in that strategy, we put together a list of questions, and we ask, you know, who they're currently using as their service provider. So if it's an injection molded supplying manufacturing company, you know, who they're using, why they chose that company. If it's a machining company, why they use that machining company, what parts do they have produced, you know, what industry do they represent? And then we tee up what we determine our client's concept is, what they do as a business. So the concept statement might say something like, this company provides high quality machine parts from prototyping to high volume production. And you know, we'll work with the client to determine what this concept statement is. And a lot of times we're vetting new ideas or services as a part of that concept statement. And we get a reaction based on that description from the audience on whether they'd be interested in working with a company that does that. So in this example, it could be the prototyping capability that adds to their competency as a service provider. So there are things that we're measuring in that concept statement as part of the brand. Then we take it from there and we ask specific questions regarding the what's important to them from that service provider in terms of the services they are offering. So in this case, reliability, product quality, knowledge and expertise, turnaround time, pricing, nobody's going to compete on providing the lowest price. So you've got to be creative about that. It could be warranties. It could be engineering solutions. Whatever it is that you think is important to measure, we incorporate in this survey. And we usually use a scale of 1 to 5, and we ask how important these different services are. And then we ask how satisfied they are with their service provider with regard to those qualities or those attributes. And we measure that against the competitors. So if they name your company, so let's just say your ABC Plastics, and we measure how well you perform in the segments we're studying. So it could be water, wastewater, it could be oil and gas, it could be a variety of different segments. And we look at it not only holistically, but we look at the responses based on your competition as well. And what can you see here as you look at this? What you see is opportunity gaps. So this is where what's important to this water wastewater segment. And this is where the competitor satisfactions are. So their lead time is poor. Their ability to provide custom solutions is poor. Our client really outperformed in the relationship building. They really outperformed the competition in their knowledge and expertise, their product quality, reliability. So you're starting to connect the dots. You find out quantitatively what is driving the satisfaction and what's important to your customers and against your competition, and you develop your story or your brand story around those things. Kyle, did you get a chance to log back on?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Oh, I am so sorry, everybody. I lost my internet connection working remotely, obviously, so I had to jump on my mobile hotspot here. I apologize for that.
No worries.
Thank
I got
you.
through the first couple of slides, Kyle, and I'm on slide 7.
Okay, nope, I see it.
Okay.
I see it. Thank you. So,
Sure.
as you probably already covered here, what we're looking at is about a dozen attributes that we measured using a 5-point Likert scale. So we have mean scores represented here. And as I did catch the end there, Liz, you did articulate how this really allows us to see how you are performing, how your competition's performing, but additionally, how important that measure of importance and deficiencies in the market in areas with the greatest potential opportunity or areas to improve. So this is just, one illustration. I'll just jump back to what I was about to tee up that I don't think you probably did cover, Liz, here, just kind of looking at research as a whole as some of the lingo that we'll see in the next couple slides. There are really 2 different forms. There's qualitative and there's quantitative. So qualitative research, you may be familiar with focus groups, in-depth interviews. Online focus groups have really become popular over the last few years, especially with COVID in the past year, as you can imagine. And these quantitative methods, they're more better suited if the goal is ideation or brainstorming. If you're looking to get very specific, detailed feedback that may also lead to additional follow-up questions or discussion. Whereas quantitative research is really more on a statistical basis, using mathematics and analysis to draw your conclusions. So I'm sorry, that's kind of how I was going to tee up this section before I lost my connection there. So
No problem.
Bouncing back to slide 7, unless you have anything to add here, Liz, you could probably move on to the next.
Okay, sounds good.
So forecasting the future trends within your industry is another area that has universal value. Obvious benefit here that you're able to determine where the low-hanging fruit may be, as well as other areas that may be more challenging for a given period of time. So in this example, we're looking at the anticipated needs based on a survey respondent within their industry. This could be set for, again, any period of time within the next year, within the next 2 years, within the next decade, whatever you're looking to forecast, as well as what they might expect to spend over that given period of time. As well, this obviously has obvious benefits in terms of budgeting and strategy areas to target. On the next slide, we look at knowing your competition. So how they're performing in the eyes of your customer. This may be current, former, or prospective customers. Another area that's easily uncovered through quantitative research. In this example, we see a horizontal bar chart with a hypothetical company and again, how they are performing against the market as a whole is illustrated here. This again was using 1 to 5 Likert 5-point Likert scale, a 1 to 5 with a 1 being a very poor score, a 5 being a very good score. And then next to each, we have the N, that's the number of respondents, and then the mean score. And on the right-hand side, we have top 2 box score. And what top 2 box score is really just the sum total of those good and very good scores. So that's one way to benchmark your performance, benchmark the market's performance. In this case, we're looking at all competitors as a whole, but there is the possibility for this to be broken down even further to show comparisons against specific competitors. And if a statistically significant sampling is achieved, and really be able to drill down, against competitors in certain areas, how they're performing, how you're performing in comparison, and really gives you that high level overview, kind of teeing up the next slide, which we're going to look at, and that's the key driver analysis. So again, we're going to just keep looking at those same attributes that we measured as importance and overall satisfaction. And what we're able to do with statistical analysis and taking it to another level and a little bit deeper of a dive, we recommend using a program called SPSS. It's an IBM product. And in this example, we used a bivariate correlation, which in simpler terms, we call a key driver analysis. And this gives us an in-depth look at what the story of the data is telling. So simply put, I guess, or said differently, what a customer says at face value isn't always the same as they might behave. So when we look at the attributes using a key driver analysis, we're able to determine which attributes are really having the greatest impact, either positively or negatively, on overall satisfaction. And in this example, we saw product quality, brand reputation, on-site engineering support. Those kind of floated to the top, and again, had that highest correlation as to what is driving that overall satisfaction of a given customer. So one example that we share, and we do a lot of work in the retail and grocery industry, is that if you ask a respondent in a survey, why do they shop at the grocery store they shop at? The off-the-cuff answer a lot of times it's closest to my home, it's price, it's the things that might seem obvious. But when we run key driver analysis against attributes measured, which could be everything from fresh fruit and variety of product, fresh meat quality, things of that nature, more often than not, we see that those elements end up floating to the top and have that overall impact or have that impact on overall satisfaction. Again, that's the underlying story that the data is telling that you might not see when taking information at face value. So all kinds of fun and cool things that can be done with statistical analysis. Again, I'd recommend checking out SPSS. That's what we use. It's a great product. There is a little bit of a learning curve there, but if you're interested in exploring this avenue further, that would be my recommendation.
Thanks, Kyle.
Yeah.
So the other cool thing that you get out of this is you see what's important to each segment. So going back to that focused effort, as you develop your brand, you know, the things that came to the surface are what you want to build your story about. So how you deliver your parts and with the product quality, you know, how you pride yourself when providing excellent customer service, how you're competitive with your pricing, and, you know, having a little different spin perhaps on each of these different categories or industries as you're going to develop your marketing strategy. So, you know, what do you do with all that? Again, use what you have learned in developing your content strategies for your marketing for the future, and develop your messaging to support that. And I'm going to show you some examples of that for one of our clients. So you'll kind of see some before and afters, and how we leveraged the research that we did for them, and how you guys could do this for yourselves and your businesses. So what we learned in this machine company that we work with, machining company, is the things that were most important was, you know, the availability for prototyping, quality, innovative thinking, making sure that they had parts delivered on time, because obviously nobody can live with downtime, although everybody's having to do that these days. But however you can tell that story was what we really learned was important. And we also learned what was most important to them in terms of how they wanted to be targeted from a sales perspective. So they wanted emails. We found that most people were searching online. There's been a big transition with boomers aging out and the younger folks coming in, and they're not reliant on some of the same ways that historically people have gone to market from a sales perspective. So having your online ducks in a row are going to be really important moving forward, as we found with this particular client. And when we did this study, most people had found their suppliers at trade shows. Well, you know, as you know, there's not very much of that happening, but you can find suppliers through your associations like TSMA and CMMA and like these organizations that are being represented today. And when we asked about what caused them to switch suppliers, they said it was costs or problems with quality and delivery. So what did we do with what we learned? We built that in their brand. We developed a tagline that said consistent, reliable, trusted. And all the things that we saw that were important, we incorporated into our messaging through social media, through blogs, and we put together marketing messages around that paid off their quality support, what they were able to provide in terms of machining capabilities. We put together all of those types of messages as part of our content strategy. And that's what we built for the company for 2020, and obviously 2021 we're building as well. And then when we executed the branding and the messaging, this is the example of what the ads looked like that went out to people after they visited the CAS website. And so you can see how we paid off: consistent, reliable, trusted. You can see how we built it onto their quality parts and delivery. It's just basically telling the people what you heard in the study and how you take away the worry on behalf of your customers in terms of the services that you provide. The other thing that's really important to incorporate in your marketing is CTAs, calls to action. So you'll see learn more here. Maybe in your business, it would be, there might be an enticement that says, get a free virtual tour. Maybe it's something like a free assessment. Whatever it is, come up with some type of compelling message that wants them to learn more about your company. And in the case of CAS, we changed their name And to the earlier slides, we vetted the name and brand as a part of the research. The customers chose the name. They chose the tagline that paid off what Cass did and what distinguished them from the competition. So that's what you can do. You take the information that you cultivate from doing your homework, doing your survey, and you can do those a lot of different ways. You could, if you've got bandwidth right now with your sales team, work with your lists of prospects and call them, put together a formal list of questions. What keeps you up at night? What do you need from a supplier? What's most important? So sort of some of the examples that we shared earlier, and then start to get creative with how you tell that story. So now segueing on to how you build a campaign based on those focused messages, we'll get into that now. So first of all, what we have learned is you have to have a planning document. The genesis of that has come out of many years of working with clients. Fortune 100 clients, believe it or not, don't have a simple planning document that shows the market verticals, where the opportunities exist in terms of growth, where the competencies are of the company, and what the value of a new customer might look like. And I'll show you an example of that. And you can take this planning document that we've created for your own companies. This will help you focus your efforts on the biggest areas of opportunity and connect the dots back to where you're going to drive revenue for the company. So I'm going to take you to that right now. I know this is small, and I'm sure that you'll be able to get a copy of this afterwards. This is a global manufacturer, but also a dealer that's based out of Australia, of all things. And they have 4 different segments that they go after. And you probably remember that Kyle showed you some trend information on buying behavior. Well, airline is not a big market right now for this particular client for obvious reasons. That commercial airlines are really suffering. So we're not going to focus on the airline business for right now. We look at these segments. So if you think about your business and you're in injection molding and you specialize in healthcare and you specialize in construction, you would put together the markets here. And then you would look at what percentage of your total revenue is coming from each of these segments. Then you would put together what services you provide, and then what your core competencies are for each of those verticals. And if you remember, we had by segment competencies that were a little different for each of these different segments. So you'd want to be thinking like that as you're putting together your plan. Then the decision makers might be different too in each of these different segments. So mining, it's occupational health and safety. They provide a lot of safety equipment, and their targets for mining and in oil and gas were similar, but they were not the same. So again, making sure that you have this kind of blueprint, and then the value of a lead. So there's a lot of ways to look at that. People ask me, okay, so what if only 10% of the leads we get in is what we do as a business? Then 10% of 100,000 is what your value of a lead is, if that makes sense. So if you have a goal of achieving a $10 million increase in revenue, you do the math on how many new oil, gas, agriculture, defense customers you're going to need. And if we find that there's a bigger demand in construction, then we're going to want to go after that low-hanging fruit and calculate how many construction leads we're going to need to get. Does that make sense, everybody? Save your questions, because we'll be able to come back to this. Again, this planning matrix has been really, really helpful for our company to help our clients, but for our clients to help themselves. So I'm hoping that this will help you as well. Provide that focus. You're probably all asking yourselves, well, how do we market during COVID? I can't rely on trade shows, and our salespeople are telling me I need leads. Well, we can't rely on trade shows. We got to get a little bit scrappy. For sure, you have to have your digital ducks in a row. If you don't have your website SEO optimized, you should make sure to get that handled, get that done. There are several tools that you can use online. SEMrush is one that you can subscribe to. Run your company's URL on that. It'll give you an idea of how you're performing. That's more of a marketing SEO, search engine optimization. So making sure that your site is being served on the first page organically of a search, because if you're not on the first page, you're not going to be found. So some trade publications too we've seen are going away. One of our clients out in Washington had 6 different trade publications, and he also owned a bunch of trade shows, and he's shut down. So I mean, we're seeing some of that, and a lot of people aren't. We did a study, as you probably a lot of you know, just seeing how COVID is affecting manufacturers, and in-person sales calls aren't happening in the same way. They just can't. So do your digital marketing, get your SEO updated on your website, deploy more Google ad campaigns. So we're saying pay-per-click, but Google ads are effective use of your budgeting dollars, and we'll talk about how a lot of clients are taking the dollars that they had allocated for trade shows and investing those instead into Google ad campaigns. Doing more from organic content, getting people to find you with blogs, and then do some dimensional mailers. Now, I'll caution you a little bit there. You've got to know that your targets are going to be in the office, but you know, there's some silly examples. Call me, but maybe a premium that distinguishes you from the competition. We helped one of our clients get into the CEO of AT&T and they were an IT company, and we sent a message in a bottle, and it had the salesperson's name on it. It was in a big box. It was really inexpensive, but he actually got a call from the CEO, and they got an appointment. So again, get a little scrappy with your marketing efforts, and you know, if you can, do a dimensional mailer. Those are really effective. Do phone sales. One thing I've seen that people have gotten creative with is I'll invite you to coffee, and then do a coffee break, 10 minutes, introductory meeting. Do videos. A lot of videos are being used. Do a video tour of your manufacturing plant, or of your company, or of your team. If you're wanting to demonstrate how you're committed to quality, you could do a quality video story and showing how you ensure quality and what your processes are. We've seen a lot of 360 videos of a trade show booth demonstrating new products. A lot of cool ways. Videos are hot and definitely recommended. So that kind of takes me into the next piece and how to structure a pilot campaign. And a pilot campaign's purpose is to take baby steps. So you've done all this research and you've kind of put together some messages. Well, let's take baby steps and see what works. So we like to do an A/B test. So maybe one message in an email out to your customer and prospect base would have a free assessment. I'm making this up. And the other half of the list would get some other type of message. Maybe it's sign up for a webinar on a new product or service that you're offering. So do some testing as part of your pilot campaign. Some do's and don'ts. If you've done your research, you know, again, create that focused messaging that resonates with what your customers want and need. Again, as I said a second ago, test 2 different ideas, and you know, do take and break out your audiences and see which one generates the most responses. You can, as I said, when you're sending out your research, see if your customers want to participate in future capabilities presentations. So as a part of that initial research, one idea I had is to maybe vet the idea of participating in future webinars or that you might host on behalf of your company. Again, test the digital advertising. So that means Google paid ads. If it makes sense for your business, you can do stuff through LinkedIn, of course, doing blogs and emails. The other thing to make sure that you're doing is incorporating tracking mechanisms. So our team are experts at doing that, and you guys can do that too. You can have unique phone numbers that you're tracking. You can have bit.ly links that are incorporated. Make sure that you're tracking where the leads are coming in from Google Analytics. Another thing you can do is you can create hidden landing pages that link to a campaign, and they're only customers and prospects are only taken to those landing pages by virtue of the ad that's placed. And the other thing that's important is to have structure around your lead funnel. And I'm going to talk about that in a second. I got to tell you, so many times we see lead funnels are a mess. And that's your bread and butter. You get customers coming in, and if they aren't able to get to you, get to your salespeople, or get to your engineering department, your sales engineers, and they're having to wait, you're not going to get that lead. You're not going to get that business. So I'll talk to you about some best practices there. Don't do a Me Too messages. A lot of times people see something they think is really cool by a competitor. Let's get creative. Make sure you're distinguishing yourself from your competition. Get to the point with your message. Don't be impatient. The thing that people often say is, oh God, I want results in a week. It's not going to happen. First of all, it can take 2 months to really get honed in, even 3 months, honed in on what the best strategy will be from your campaigns. You're going to see some effect right away, but it takes time to really get it refined and to have it have enough information to act on. And again, don't forget to track your ROI and monitor your progress so you can roll out what works best and don't give up. So how do you do this? Again, I talked about this already, an A/B test. Again, I said place your ads with Google AdWords. You can do something called affinity display. And what that means is you can target through Google people who have searched in the past for injection molded suppliers or machining suppliers or whatever your business is. And your ads will be put into a display format and served to those individuals. Google AdWords are connected to a search term. And again, to my point earlier, we're testing one, for example, for a client right now, and they wanted to really promote one of the brands that they sold. But what we found is that it's more about the services under that brand that are working better, not the brand itself. So you've got to play with brand terms and services and offers and calls to action as a part of this pilot. The other piece is to incorporate retargeting ads. Retargeting ads are those ads that follow you around. So if you looked at some cool sporting goods or you looked at some cool shoes and then you see the shoes following you everywhere and you go online again, that's a retargeting ad. And those ads are structured to be sent to people who have spent some time on your site. They've spent some quality time, and those ads will follow them around. And a lot of times we do little videos as a part of those retargeting ads or animated ads. Those work really effectively because they're already qualified and interested in your business because they've spent time on your site. The other is the opt-in email. So hopefully you've got an opt-in email list, and then blogs. Google loves content. And the more that you can put relevant content out there, the more relevant you will be in the eyes of Google. So keep that in mind as putting together good content. And there's a lot of good topics out there on how to structure good content. It should be SEO optimized. So keywords should be embedded into the blog so that the people are searching for those terms and that will find your website based on that blog content. And then how to budget. Again, we recommend taking 2 or 3 different geographic areas. So let's just say that you're really well known in St. Cloud, but nobody knows you in Minneapolis and nobody knows you in Fargo. We would recommend doing a geographic split into those 3 markets, 2 or 3, and then doing a test of $30 a day with Google at a minimum for a pilot. Again, pilot should say 2 to 3 months, and see what type of concepts are producing the best result. With the affinity display ads, Google kind of picks the ones that are producing the best. So that's the good news about that. And then how you measure is again through your ROI tracking that you have embedded, and then roll out what is performing the best in terms of actual conversions. A lot of times we see people say, oh, we had a lot of clicks and impressions. I don't care about that as much as I care about people who fill out a contact form or who actually pick up the phone and call the client. That's what you're wanting to have happen. You want to have people actually calling and wanting to do business with you. This is an example of putting together the strategy. So in this particular case, you know, we had a relaunch of the client. So we had kind of what elements were included. We did an open house, and this was last year to kind of present their new capabilities. And then we did our ROI analysis and we rolled out what works best. So this is a really simple way that you guys can put together some structure on a focused campaign. So I talked a little bit before about tracking. This is an example of elements of a campaign that we did for CAS. And you can see that this is a paid ad. So Precision Machine Shop, if somebody entered the term machine shop, their ad will come up. And as you can see here, there's a link. There's also a phone number, so they can call and get connected to somebody at CAS, wherever they are. We have the calls to action in the different test ads that were out there. We have opt-in lists. We did press releases. We did blogs and hidden landing pages, and they all go to a contact page. There are best practices with that contact page because it's your lead funnel. You want to make it easy on the person that's coming to your site, because guess what? If you got a good lead funnel, you got a happy salesperson. And so, and you got happy owners because you've got your leads coming in and they're getting converted. And there are ways that you can pre-qualify customers too coming in. So one of the clients that we have has a certain threshold in terms of what type of volume they'll do. So we include that right on the contact form submission. So some best practices, it's easy to find on your website. You have some type of call to action on why they should contact you. Don't make a whole bunch of fields required. Make sure you get their name, their company name, and their phone number and email, but you don't have to have a whole bunch of required fields because then you're going to have them drop off. People are lazy. But do include, you know, if they want to reach a salesperson or if they want to get, they want to talk to an engineer, give them the selects for that so that they get what they need from a follow-up perspective. Everybody's time pressed. People don't want to have a misdirect in the way that they're having to work with you. So here's an example. We refined a lead funnel for one of our clients. They used to have a contact form go all into the same person. This happens all the time. And that's a lot of energy, particularly if you have the same person that's getting the lead RFQs is also handing resumes or facility tours or general inquiries. Have a strategy on your back end of your contact form so that you can send your RFQ requests to salespeople by geo or multiple salespeople. I don't know how you're structured, but think about that as you're building your contact form. And then again, I talked about this already, $30 a day for Google as part of your pilot. You'll see once you start getting conversions, how much to allocate because you'll be getting the contact form submissions and the new business. We see some clients will start at $1,000 a month and they're at $6,000 a month because it's more than paying for itself as we take it nationally or globally. $500 a month for Facebook is typically what we would do. And we only really focus on Facebook if you have consumer facing products. So if one of our clients is Melco and they're a hand tools product up in Annandale. And we do a lot of promotions through social media because it makes sense to do so. They have a lot of end users. They don't sell direct to end users. They sell through large retailers and dealers and distributors. But again, it has a lot of opportunity to get the word out about their products through social media. And do giveaways if you have consumer-oriented products. We have the ability to track everything with a dashboard, which I'll just show you very quickly. So you can see what is working and what you're spending at a glance. And ask who you're working with to provide this kind of information if you can. Google Analytics will give you some of this information as well. But what you want to know is how your web traffic is going, what you're spending in Google, and what it's netting in terms of total ROI. Not only that, what you're spending with, who you're working with as an agency. And then, look at what type of activity you're generating. Excuse me. Look at your email traffic, look at your blog sessions, look at your Google campaigns, what campaigns are driving the biggest response. And then you can also assign these phone numbers that are trackable as well. Look at your newsletters. I won't belabor it, you kind of get the idea, I'm sure, on what kind of revenue you're garnering as a result of this. So at the end of the day, you should be able to see results and be able to measure those, going back to that planning document, how many leads you've generated, how many have converted, how much activity you've generated consecutively with your traffic. And this is an example of what that can look like. So in conclusion, focus on your markets as a recap. Look at what the wants, needs, and demand is for your customers, and build your messaging around that, your brand story, and take those baby steps in developing your pilot campaign and structuring your spend and measuring your results. And with that, I'll hand it back over to Amy for any questions.
All right. Thank you, Liz and Kyle, very much. I do have a question that has come in, and before I relay that, just as a reminder, feel free to submit any questions into the chat function and I will relay them for you. So the first question, what if my company is global? Does that change the investment strategy for the pilot campaign?
Great question. So we would structure the company's campaigns in Europe differently. That would be a separate budget. And typically, some of the services are slightly different. So I would definitely consider doing a separate budget for that pilot. So great question.
Thank you. Another question that just came in. Should I try to place the Google ads myself?
That is a great question. I would recommend that you get somebody who's certified in Google campaign management. Have maybe one of your team members get trained in on that. You can lose a lot of doing it on your own. So that would be our recommendation, is make sure you've got somebody who's certified.
Thank you. Another question. How do I evaluate if my website is functioning from an SEO perspective?
Another great question. Again, there's a lot of tools out there. There's a technical SEO tool that's available through Google. I can send an email that gives you a list of several that you can use. SEMrush is one that we use that you could pull up, and they'll let you can do a free analysis with that. That's an example of one from a marketing perspective. Those are two that I would recommend.
Well, it looks like the chat is slowing down a little bit. Any other questions? Feel free to unmute yourself as well. All right. Well, Liz and Kyle, I would like to thank you so much for taking the time to share your expertise with us today. I'd also like to thank the audience for your continued support. With that, I think we can conclude the webinar. Liz, Kyle, Sandy, and I will stay online after the completion of the session for anyone that wants to chat or has any additional questions about our presentation today. For those that are logging off, enjoy the remainder of your week and stay safe. We'll see you again next month for the continuation of this marketing series. Bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.